I'm going to cover this bulleted item, namespace keyword and namespace constant. The namespace keyword and namespace constant act basically like the word self acts for classes. During compile time of a script, the word self in a class is replaced by the name of the class. Okay, the same thing happens with with something that looks like this, which is a magic constant, and the keyword namespace. And by the way, the keyword namespace acts exactly the way this magic constant acts. All right, if you go to php.net, you'll see examples of the use of this. See this echo statement? Basically, after this script is compiled, these characters are going to be replaced with these characters right here. Okay? All right, now we're going to get to the use statement. I know you've been waiting for this. Okay? Using namespaces, aliasing, importing. The ability to refer to an external fully qualified name with an alias or importing is an important feature of namespaces. This is similar to the ability of Unix-based file systems to create symbolic links to a file or to a directory. All versions of PHP that support namespaces support three kinds of aliasing or importing. Aliasing a class name, aliasing an interface name, aliasing a namespace name. PHP 5.6 Plus also allows aliasing or importing function and constant names. In other words, function and constant names have not been implemented in this strategy yet. In PHP, aliasing is accomplished with the use operator. Here is an example showing all 5 kinds of importing.
At this point, I want you to note something. The use statement does not do an include. You still need to use include statements or use an autoloader. What the use statement does, it alters the way that you reference names of classes.
All right, here's a PHP script. The namespace is foo. We have a use statement, which aliases this with this. Okay. We also have a use statement, which does not have the word as in it. Okay, what this does is this is the same as having the as, but just for the last part here. Importing a global class. Okay, this is a use statement, but it's made out of one part. And this does an import. It's not so much an alias, although you could think of it as an alias just as this one is an alias. Okay, now where we use this one is down here. $A equals new array object. And that instantiates object of class array object. Without having this line in here, this would instantiate an object of class foo array object from the foo up here. Okay? So that's the significance of this line, simple as it may be. Importing a function. Okay, remember we said importing functions and constants is only in 5.6 plus PHP. Note that for namespaced names, the leading backslash is unnecessary and not recommended, as import names must be fully qualified and not processed relative to the current namespace. PHP additionally supports a convenience shortcut to place multiple use statements on the same line. That's this right here. Okay, it uses a comma. Importing is performed at compile time and so does not affect dynamic class, function, or constant names. All right, look at this example. Use as, and then it also uses this. Okay, object equals new another. Okay, instantiates object of class, my full class name. Yeah, that's because that's what another is. Okay, so that's how it normally works. Now we have $A equals another, and then we're having dynamic variable names to create a new class. Okay, so this one is not going to create something the same way as this line created it. This is actually going to instantiate an object of class called another, not this right here. Okay. In addition, importing only affects unqualified and qualified names. Fully qualified names are absolute and unaffected by imports. Yeah, I had forgotten to mention this. See this use statement here? My full NS name. Okay, well down here we use NS name not as a class name and not as a function name, but we are using it as part of another namespace name. Okay, that's another use for the use statement. Okay, So that's one way to use it, besides as a class name or as part of a function name. And notice the difference. For class names, we don't say use class, but for function, we say use function. And for constant, we say use constant. All right, back down here. Scoping rules for importing. The use keyword must be declared in the outermost scope of a file or inside namespace declarations. In other words, it could be used inside here, where we could have a use statement inside a namespace. I haven't seen an example of that, but anyways, this is because the importing is done at compile time and not runtime, so it cannot be block scoped. The following example will show an illegal use of the use keyword. Okay, so this is illegal. There's a use statement inside a class definition. It's got to be somewhere like out here. Okay, that's where you can put a use statement. All right, there's a note here. Importing rules are per file basis, meaning included files will not inherit the parent file's import rules. Okay, that's it for this stuff.